Yesterday, you were in Raleigh, or was it Miami? Where did you come from?
Raleigh.
Raleigh. And you caught a flight to get in last night, rent a car, get to the hangar. Already, I'm off balance because what an honor that you'd be willing to do that. I'm blown away by that all by itself. So, by way of introduction, I get to spend this time with Nikita Zhitov from Raleigh. Let's call home base Raleigh. And as you know, at least I attempt to set the stage to every one of these podcasts with a word. And I got to tell you, I struggled with this because there really isn't a word. But after a lot of thought, the word I've chosen is the word driven. And by explanation, driven in every area of your life, driven to understand, driven toward answers, driven towards growth, driven towards understanding and experiencing life in a way that very, very few even wrap their head around. And so, first and foremost, thanks for being here. It's a huge privilege, and this is going to be one of those podcasts, Nikita, that if I do my job right in asking the right questions, I think people are going to listen to this thing over and over and over and over again with a pen and a notepad. There's just no way to encapsulate you and your mind and what you're about in a short period of time, but it will challenge people in a lot of ways. So we're going to dive in by starting with an exercise that was a part of Power Players, and it may have been an alumni Power Players. But I remember it distinctly, asking everyone there to write what I phrased as a credo. And you wrote, and I think there was instructions that it had to be, no more than so many words and very concise and very much, this is what I believe in a sentence or two. Here it is. Here's what I believe. Or this is sort of my foundational thinking. And this was 20 some years ago, I think. Okay. Do you remember what that was?
What my credo was.
Yes.
When you asked me to write it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember it was in Aruba. Actually, it was Power Players alumni event, and you were just getting ready to build a credo square, and asked to write a credo, which at the time I wrote, "Don't trust, don't fear, and don't beg," and I guess it was the best thing I could come up with at the time on the short notice, but because looking back, I don't think it was my belief, right?
So say it slowly, because I really, I'm going to make you say a few things again, slowly enunciate, because I want to make sure the words, don't trust, don't feel.
Don't fear.
Don't fear, don't trust, don't fear, and don't beg.
Yes, so it's an old Russian saying that I think actually originated in Russian prisons in 1930s when communists used to send political prisoners to these political prison camps. That was kind of a survival saying. The best way to survive in those concentration camps is follow this rule of thumb. And again, because something that was taught from the childhood, I guess I thought it sounded good at the time. But again, as I said just a few minutes ago, looking back, I don't believe that was my real belief. Because keep in mind, I was young when I did Power Players alumni. I was in my early 20s. And I think I said it because from not knowing who I am. By the way, all mistakes we make in life come from not knowing who you are. It certainly won't be my credo today, because I've taken time to understand myself.
Well, see, you can see right out of the gate, I'm talking to those listening, this is not going to be a shallow pool we're walking in right now. All mistakes that we make tracked back to the fact that we don't really know ourselves.
That's right. By the way, the best way to know yourself is spend some time with yourself. Without phones, without distraction, without listening to music with other people. But ask yourself, when is the last time you've actually sat down with yourself for an hour, right? And also start journaling, write an autobiography. If you write an autobiography, you're going to learn a lot of things about yourself. You don't have to publish it anywhere. Just do it for the simple exercise of knowing yourself better.
That credo exercise and what you came up with, don't trust, don't fear, don't beg, was something that was in your brain. It was something that you at least thought you believed at the time. But it also, I think, spoke of a young Nikita and where you came from and the environment and the stimulus around you, the influences around you at that young age. Can you paint a picture of you as a young kid, and what was the feeling of that environment and the influences around you?
Well, I grew up in Russia until I was 14 years old when my family and I immigrated to the United States. And obviously, in Russia at the time, the Soviet Union just collapsed, so it became Democratic Republic. But a lot of philosophies and way of thinking still remain from the Soviet era. So I think that's where all of this originated. And I think in general, I had a pretty good upbringing. I think my parents instilled some good principles in me, such as respect elders, work hard. Everything that happens to you, you're responsible for in your life. If somebody stole from you, it's your fault because you should have seen it coming. So kind of that extreme ownership that you're in charge of your own life. And to have that type of mentality instead of having a victim mentality that somebody else is, it's somebody else's fault. So I think those were good things, and unfortunately it was good. There's comes some bad, some of the bad, probably principles. And again, it was probably true for them, for my parents, or for my environment the time they were growing up, but it was not true for my reality. And one of them was that people in general cannot be trusted. That people are, selfish. They're, you shouldn't ask people for favors. You shouldn't trust anybody, but also you shouldn't be afraid of anyone. Looking back, I realized it was not my belief. It was something that I was taught, because I do believe that people are actually smart and people are beautiful. That people are not stupid. That people have good intentions, in general, until, they prove you wrong.
Already out of the chute, this creates, I always want to pull out and say, okay, think on this. Think on the installation that was happening. But at a certain point, when you're able to process as an adult, there's, in my opinion, at least almost an obligation to spread it out all on the table and say, okay, this is what was installed. This is what I learned with hopefully well-meaning people. Nobody's trying to mess me up, but they gave me what they gave me. But what do I think? Do I believe this? And that personal ownership of your belief system is the beginning to building something that you've done, your belief system. What was some of the first steps towards changing that you made? When did you become aware that you had to be the one to question and remodel, replace, deal with the beliefs that you had?
Well, yeah, you have to. A lot of learning comes from unlearning what was previously installed and just questioning every belief. And when you catch yourself with a certain belief, and sometimes it's hard to catch yourself because they're subconscious, they're unconscious belief, right? It's not what we consciously know; it's what we unconsciously do that defines your life. So, unfortunately, we do a lot of things unconsciously because it's a hardwiring programming, and it takes a lot of effort and a lot of awareness to observe and detect those beliefs and question whether or not they are your beliefs. And this is something that's true for you if it's something you really believe in. So it probably happened in sometime during teenage years, and constant evolvement. You definitely had a big impact on that. Questioning the philosophies that you've taught me during my late teens and early 20s make me look at everything philosophically and question all the beliefs. So I cannot pinpoint exactly at one point in time I started thinking and kind of uncovering the hood of an engine and taking it apart, but sometimes either during I think it's a never-ending process, actually. It's probably started during my teens, and it's been going on ever since. I constantly revisit the beliefs, because what was true for me 5 years ago is no longer true today. So it was true for me 6 months ago is no longer true today.
Nikita, I know you've heard me say this, and in our one-on-one time, I've really encouraged this, but the value of a debrief, you've sort of underscored it by saying that the mistakes we make, well, okay, we debrief the mistakes. We debrief the things that didn't go the way we wanted them to go. Just like we would debrief something that went really well. How the hell did that happen? And you want to rinse and repeat, right? But when we debrief the mistakes and we really start digging, we don't just look at the surface of it. We dig to the root of what were the assumptions? What was the belief behind that? Just as you said, we get to who am I? Who am I really? And there's the mistake. So I was in conflict with what I really am. Something about who I really am, I didn't follow that, and therefore it led to this mistake. When we change who we are, we change everything around us. I think Jim Rohn said that. You went out, with great credentials. You're a brilliant mind in physics and engineering and, your mathematics, your brain works really, really well. You went out into the real estate world. Tell me about some of the initial debriefs that you had and how they've led to you discovering more of who you really are.
Well, I don't think I was doing any debriefs at the time. It was kind of a process of learning by doing, right? And I started real estate, actually my senior year in high school. And stumbled into it by accident. I was trying to figure out, all my college apps were done, and I was trying to figure out, I had a lot of free time in my hands, so I was read the book, I think, by Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad, and he talked about some real estate deals. So you can make, flip buildings and make a lot of cash money quickly with it. So that got me interested and intrigued, and that led me to acquiring and basically wholesaling my first apartment building. Pretty much my senior year in high school. So, as you can imagine, I caught the real estate bug very, very quickly, because I think I've made, at the time, again, I was living off $100 a week lunch allowance, and making around $50,000 on a.
It's a big upgrade.
Yes, that will get you hooked on real estate very, very quickly. So after high school, I got a full ride scholarship actually to 17 different universities. It was an offer from North Carolina governor that through my school that if I stayed basically and went to any in-state schools, I can pick any university and my tuition and basically full scholarship would be paid for. None of which I wanted really to go to. I really wanted to go to Harvard, which I didn't get admitted to. So after high school, I picked what I thought was the best university out of the 17 universities that were kind of offered to me, which was UNC Chapel Hill. But as you can imagine, by the end of my first semester, I was already a full-time real estate investor. So I dropped out from university, walked away from scholarship. I took a year off, and then which I never returned, and pretty much became a real estate investor full-time since that period of time. And it was just experimenting. I was just obsessed. I was a motivated buyer. I was obsessed with all aspects of real estate.
What was the goal? What was the initial goal?
The idea that, again, a small person like me can own a big building, a structure, and so especially somebody with my credentials, which my credentials were barely knew, any English, no college education, no money, no endorsements, no connections, no relationships in the investment world. My sphere of influence was limited to high school friends and maybe a couple of professors. And without no credit, good or bad, simply none, no assets, and again, barely could speak English, as somebody with those credentials can go and acquire buildings, income-producing assets, multifamily where people pay you rent. It was just a fascinating concept that, that other people are buying your buildings for you. And I don't remember who the guy, but it was a developer from New York. I remember early on I read his autobiography. And he started out, buying houses and flipping up multiplexes, and eventually he ended up owning an Empire State Building. And in his autobiography, he said, I always like the idea that all these people, they go have their lives. Somebody is an engineer, somebody is an attorney, somebody is a waitress. They all have different lives and different jobs, but at the end of the months, they all get together in a group, and they collectively put together all their paychecks, or portion of the paychecks, and put it in one big lump sum of money and give it to me so I can make a mortgage payment on my building. So I always liked that concept. And that person liked that concept, the developer from New York. And I said, I like that concept too. I want to explore more on that. I like the idea of a bunch of people, going, getting college degrees, getting masters, and so they can have high-paying jobs, so that at the end of the months they can all get in a group, put their money in a pot, and give it to me, so I can, make a payment on my building. So those kind of concepts really intrigued me. And of course, meeting you early on in my career, maybe my first year into real estate, I met you. You didn't meet me until years later, right? But I was a big fan of yours, and I stayed in touch with you on a daily basis. And because I was listening to your materials, CDs, monthly CDs, it was the best thing. And where I was learning about all these different tools and techniques, how you go and buy real estate with no money down. Keep in mind, I had no real resources. I couldn't get a bank loan. So all the deals when I was buying the property a week for like several years in a row were all, creative finance deals that I learned from you. And it was years later when I actually could afford to go to a Power Players event when, we've met in person. But you were my friend and my mentor for several years prior to that, without you even knowing it.
What was the first day we met face to face?
It was.
I can put myself there visually, but I'm really.
So the first face to face was it was like a mastermind investor palooza, I think in Charlotte, North Carolina, where I heard you speak, and at the time I
There were multiple speakers.
The multiple
there.
speakers, yes. And then again, I stayed in touch. It was a one-way relationship. And then I went to
that makes me sound really bad.
yeah, but it was. And then I went to several other those like 1 day or 2 day events that you taught. But the first event where we started spending one-on-one time was at Power Players in Whistler in 2008.
2008, yeah. And I almost feel like I have to defend that, when you go to, at least back in those days, you're asked to speak at these, huge events, and there's a few thousand people there or something, there's no way to know people one-on-one, and yet you hope that there's some kind of seed planted where through some means we can start the process of getting to know each other. But something like Power Players, where there's 40, 50 students with a big intake. Now I get to know you one-on-one. And so even that, though, you think about that, gosh, I mean, that's a long time ago now.
Yeah,
And
15 years.
I just, I cherish that day happened because I remember that Power Players, and I remember the driven focus you had and your aspirations. Make no small plans. There's nothing in small plans to stir the blood of men. And I went, wow, that piece of script was written for you because your plans were not small. I remember bringing you up front and saying, just lay it out. Where are you going with this? And it wasn't just millions. It was world domination is what it felt like, and compared to so many. And to me, that says something different about the way you see possibility. Talk about possibility. Talk about what is possible for you, Nikita.
Well, you're the creator of your own life. So everything is possible. Whatever the mind can think, the mind can achieve. I think it's a quote from Think and Grow Rich book, right? So really, there is no end to possibilities. All possibilities already exist in the quantum. You just have to go get it for yourself. As far as your comment about planting seeds, you definitely have planted a seed that have been watered and have grown. And I would say you're probably one of the biggest influences in my life, in my real estate career, because there is no way I would be having the portfolio, the knowledge, or have done deals I have done without the knowledge I've acquired from you. Those monthly coaching series that you had, I think it was for $20. And I think the reason I signed up for it because that's all what I could afford at the time. $20 a month, and you would send me a CD, and I would listen to it 30, 60, probably more than 100 times some of those CDs. So it became kind of a my knowledge. And then it was like a Bible to me because I would be listening to a monthly CD where you describe a new philosophy, a new real estate strategy, as I would be pulling up to seller's house. And then it was like a playbook because I would go into the meeting and it's a scenario that was just described on the CD. And I already knew how exactly it's going to unveil and what exactly is going to happen next and what they said, and I knew exactly what to respond because, again, it was just I was just looking at the textbook and applying the knowledge 10 minutes later. It was the best thing that had the biggest impact and the biggest influence on my real estate career, for which I would be internally grateful to you. And I'm not saying that because, again, you were the host of the podcast that we're on. I'm saying it because I truly believe it and truly feel this way.
I remember Nikita once, driving away from a big gathering. It seemed like it was late at night, and I think it was a Maserati. I don't know what you had. Was that right? Did you have a Maserati?
I had a few different.
It was something like
sports
that.
cars.
But
It
you
was
were
probably an Aston
driving,
Martin or Maserati,
jumped in, and boom, we were gone. Out of some big conference or something. It's amazing. I can't remember details, but what I do remember is that when you started the car and we took off, the Master Series was in there. And I went, oh my God, turn that off. Turn it off.
Yeah.
I can't stand the sound of my own voice. But that's when you told me, said this is the only purpose for this box right here on this car, is that this never leaves. It's continual. It's like on a loop. It's 100 hours, but it's on a loop. And so I think that competence, left brain competence, understanding the toolbox. I see a lot of people want great things. The metaphor I use, they want to fly. But the thousands of hours that goes into ground school, that goes into study, that when everybody else is sleeping, you're there with a cup of coffee and glasses and a highlighter, understanding a precision approach radar. In other words, you're doing the work that sets the stage to when the opportunity is there, you know what to do. That work ethic is one of the things you said that your mom and dad taught you, and it's uncanny. I don't see it often. The dedication and the work ethic. How many books do you read in a month?
On average, probably 2 or 3 a week. Sometimes it could be as high as 5, 6, 7 a week. But
I want everybody to pause this and write on a sheet of paper, how many books do you read a week? And then I want you to compare. 2 or 3 a week? Are you reading 2 or 3 books a week? I already know the answer. No. I know that's just off the chart. I only know one other person in my life that does that, and that's A.B. And he's gone now, of course, but that's what he did.
Well, brain is a muscle that needs to be exercised just like your biceps or triceps. The problem is that most people stop exercising it after they graduate high school or after they get their college degree. Well, that's a muscle that needs to be constant exercising. Mm-hmm. So the way you grow is the way you develop your brain is by creating new synaptic neural connections in your brain. And the only way to break the old connections and create new ones is through knowledge and through acquiring new knowledge. That's why reading is so important, or studying a new skill. I don't care if it's learning how to play piano, right? Mm-hmm. Or learn how to fly airplane. Just do something to have a constant growth, because that's essential to progress. Because
which you've learned to do both, by the way, in the last 5 years. Right?
Yes, but so we always moving. There is no plateau. You either are moving forward, or the moment you stop learning and stop growing, you start moving backwards because you're getting left behind by progress. Mm-hmm. If you think about it, the difference between the people you admire and everyone else is that the former ones read. I think one of your friends said this quote, which became one of my favorite quotes, is that people who don't read are no different from people who cannot read. I think it was Mike Cantu, actually. Mm-hmm. And that really hit home, because if you know how to read, but you don't read, then you might as well be a person from third world country who's illiterate, who've never been taught how to read. And we have, we have America with so many people, college graduates, educated, who know how to read. They don't read. Probably, I don't know what the statistics are, but probably small. And another reason why I like to read a lot is because, if you read, you live 1,000 lives. If you don't, you'll live only one life. So I'm going to take advantage of that opportunity to have other people's experiences
Yeah.
for myself. And actually, you said it's a rarity. You only know one other person. In our company, it's a requirement. And when we have our weekly meetings, and we don't have a super big company, but it's we have about 27 people right now. But everybody is required to report on a weekly basis. When we started our weekly meetings, they have to report on a weekly basis the list of books they've read from the week prior. So, and we have anybody who read, a book one every 2 or 3 weeks. And we have somebody like G who reads 7 books in a week. And it's your environment determines your standards. The Marines, if you look at Marines, 6 months after they go home, their standards drop because they no longer have the influences. The peer group is no longer there. So if you create a peer group where reading and constant growth is your core value and something you expect people to follow through, then people are going to rise to the occasion. They're going to follow through with it, and for their own sake. We do it for selfish reasons because the more developed they are, the more their brain develops. They're going to be better executors. So we kind of do it for selfish reasons, but truly it's for their sake.
I had the opportunity very recently to be invited to a gathering, and I knew a lot about one person, but had heard good things about 6 others that I knew would be there. And my hardwiring is you don't show up anywhere that you're invited for a social gathering without bringing something. You just don't just show up, at the very least a host gift or a hostess gift or something. But because it was centered around the holidays, I thought, it's such a privilege to be invited to be here. And I know I've heard of the others who would be there. Knew one person pretty well, but heard of the others well enough to know kind of a little bit about them. But what do I do in fairly quick order? And so I went to the bin that says, wrapping paper or whatever, and here's these little bags like you would put a gift in, Oh, here's like 7 of them that match. Great. Set them all up on the bench. And, okay, I'm going to write a card to everybody. Let's do that. And then what do you give somebody? Well, I knew enough about them. I knew one was an entrepreneur. I knew one was this, one was that. And I just went to my library, and I have a thing with when I get a book that I really like and I've read it, I always have Ryan order 2 or 3 more in hardbound. So you'll see the one I read and it's all marked up, but then you'll see like 2 others right next to it that are brand new hardbound because ultimately I want somebody else to read this. I want to give. So it took me 2 seconds. I went up there and said, oh, and I just pulled 7 books off the shelf. They're all brand new hardbound. I just put them in the bag and kind of wrote the card around. I think you'll like this for this reason. And I showed up with my put a bottle of wine in, one for the hostess and host, and, showed up with books. And, Tools for Titans was one, right? Losing My Virginity by Richard Branson, another. I bet you've read all of these. Yep. Mm-hmm. Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. Mm-hmm. Excellent book. You get the idea. But the thing I love when I hear somebody say this phrase, it's like my tail starts wagging. It's that, I used to think this, but now I think this. I just go, oh, I want to know this person. there's evolution of thought. There's growth. There's an ability to say, what I know so far is this, but I'm open to what I don't know. And to me, oh my gosh, that I just am drawn to that, to go, oh wow, I need to talk to you. I need to know you, because you're in the process of growth. And even saying that, I just challenge myself to like, yes, that's what we're supposed to do, to live 1,000 lives through other people's experience, through discoveries that others have made, that when we get on that track, we'll discover even more. That growth. Where does that, how do you inject that in people? What pill do I buy in mass quantities to shove down people's throat that they want to truly grow? Is it just inherent? Is it somewhere way back here something happened? Or can you say, damn it, I'm not that. I want to be that. What jumpstarts that, Nikita? How do you get 9 people in your office to buy into we're reading a book a week?
Well, not everybody buys into it, and some people just fall out naturally after a period of time if it's not. But in general, I think you said it. The prerequisite to change is a disgust with the status quo, right? So you want to change your life. Well, you better change the way you think and the way you feel, right? You have to literally become a new person, because your personality creates your personal reality. But change your personality, and you can change your personal reality. Well, how do you change your personality? Well, to change your personality, you literally have to become somebody else. And how you become somebody else is by thinking in new ways and feeling in new ways. So start with thinking, and the best way to start to change the way you think is through acquiring new knowledge, breaking the old synaptic connections in your brain and creating new webs of synaptic connections. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah. Your very logical, mathematical, physics sort of mind breaks it down, and that left brain part of me just resonates with that. But go to the next side of the equation, the right brain, the feeling side of the limbic brain side. There is this quote, long time ago, I wrote it, that you have to, it's the arrival before departure philosophy is what I call it. But you have to be there before you're there in order to get there. This is not just an intellectual agreement with yourself, but it's a feeling level agreement with yourself that you've been there. You are there. You're this before you're this in order to be this. I can only throw those thoughts out to certain groups of people. There's a whole world that just goes, oh, wacko, and that's it. I'm disqualified immediately. I have to be pretty careful. You know what? When I was younger, I used to tiptoe around things like this. I was afraid to say what I truly thought because I would just get disqualified. I don't really give a shit now. This is, being under 5 and over 65, you just don't give a shit anymore. And so, that reality of being there, both intellectually and subjectively, the literal, the feeling, being there before you're there creates a new identity. It's like just what you said. You what you aren't, you are. You've changed your identity, and it's become your new reality that becomes your new reality. Wow. To me, this discussion, this big discussion, takes you, your life, your business, anything that you are seeing and feeling, it takes it into through a curtain. It's C.S. Lewis. It's through the back of the wardrobe. You walk through the closet, right through the back of the closet. And, Clive Staples was a deep thinker, right? To me, those that have your level of success, they've figured out that they have to get out of this into a whole different place to start seeing and experiencing the world from an entirely different perspective. That's philosophy. And when you think on all of the great philosophers, all of the knowledge, it all is in pursuit of understanding the infinite, understanding how to do way more than just get up, go to work, get a paycheck, go home, watch Netflix, rinse and repeat. There better be more to that, and yet few really start digging and scraping and looking for it. Now, there's my version of that process. Give me your version of that process, because when we met, there was one Nikita that I met. But you've challenged yourself. Give me the journey in literal and in philosophical terms from 18 to today. Literal and philosophical evolution of Nikita Zhitov.
Well, literal, I had, ups and downs. Again, as I told you, I was a motivated real estate buyer, a motivated buyer of investment real estate that obviously got me in trouble at certain point in times. It was not a smooth road. I had a lot of major setbacks that fortunately I've been able to recover from and learn from those mistakes. And if it's interesting, we can go into more details about the type of real estate transactions we do and how it evolved over time. Maybe I'll just say this on the literal part. There's two ways to make money in real estate: the hard way and the easy way. Because real estate has been my passion. I've experimented with all aspects of real estate, everything from, saying I've never developed student housing apartments before, so let's try it. I've never developed self-storage facilities before. I've never had a hotel, so let's experiment those. So I would experiment with every asset class of real estate, with big box retail to warehouses to office buildings, everything in between, medical offices. And I've never developed a subdivision, so let's go develop some subdivisions and see if I like it. Well, the problem with that is that saying yes to kind of cool things is gonna has the potential to wipe you out, and probably will wipe you out sooner or later. So how I evolved over time is I have much more focus and much stricter criteria with what we go after in with our real estate projects. And it's pretty much, it boils down to two asset classes: small bay industrial and neighborhood retail. It's the only two real estate classes that we pursue now. But historically, I've done every asset class out there, and the development is the hard way to make money. Buying value add retail or industrial, that's the easy way to make money. So, there's an old saying in real estate that says paint will make it what it ain't. And it's very true, because for when doing value-add projects for, with minimum expenses, cosmetic upfit, some paint, some lipstick, maybe new landscaping, new parking lot, we can make an asset look really, really beautiful, like a brand new, and we can have a value-add increase in equity over 4-6 months period of time, versus doing development, which is what I used to do for a period of my real estate career. It takes you 2 years to entitle something. By the time you get it rezoned, entitled, site plan approval, construction drawings, you're 2 years into it. Some municipalities longer, but 2 years is probably the bare minimum what you can get things done in today's age and age. And then it takes you a year, assuming you have all your financing lined up in equity right away, and it takes you a year and a half to get it built, and then another 6 months to a year to stabilize. So you're 4 years into it. And right now we're sitting in December of 2023. Think about where you were in December of 2019, 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. Right? The world have changed, and your life have changed multiple times since then. We didn't even had COVID at the time, right? And so many. It was a different president, different political climate. It was the entire world was different 2 years ago. So you cannot. Nobody has a crystal ball, so you cannot see 4 years into the future. And every developer who eventually went belly up, they did one project too many. Mm-hmm. Right, because they always wanted to do bigger and better projects. Versus, so right now again, I've figured after trying all asset classes, I've identified the easiest way to make money, which is buying neighborhood retail or or small bay industrial on gross leases, and simply converting the lease structures to market rent and converting them to triple net, and it gives me the biggest increase in equity in a 3 to 6 months period of time. Mm-hmm. And with minimum risk.
It's more execution than it is development. You have a plan, you know the time frame, you know what you're working with. You've contained the variables into a short, compacted game plan versus the unknown of so many moving parts that are out of your control.
Correct. Yeah. So that was the literal kind of evolution of the career. Mm-hmm. The philosophical evolution, I had a chain of thought that I lost as I was speaking about the literal one, but I'll try to, maybe it will come back to me. I think just the realization that everything that happens to us has no, I'm talking about bad things, or good things for that matter of fact, but especially bad things, has absolutely no meaning except the meaning that you give it. Nobody can make you feel inferior without your permission. Mm-hmm. So it really is in your head, right? And whatever happens, how you're going to react to it. And very few things in life stay important over a continuous period of time. So what I understood is that and whenever a negative event happens, I don't let myself linger in that negative event for a period of time. If it's not going to be important 5 years from now, then I acknowledge it for 5 minutes and I just move on, focus on things that give me joy. Because remember, where you place your attention, where you place your energy. Mm-hmm. So don't place your attention on things that don't give you joy and bliss and happiness. I choose to place my attention only on things that give me positive emotions. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And where I place my attention is where I place my energy. And if you change your energy, you're going to change your life. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right? So I think that's probably...
What are the things that bring you the most joy when you need to focus, with joy being the center of your focus? What are those things that you think on, meditate on? Well, we're going to get there in a minute, but what are those things?
Certainly, my daughter. Every time I think of her, I have a smile for no reason. I just start smiling, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. When I hear her laughter or visualize her laughter, that gives me a lot of joy. Inspiring younger generation, younger kids who are just straight out of high school, straight out of college, and see how their eyes lit up when I show them the possibilities in life, especially around real estate. Kind of like what you've done for me at the early age. So that gives me a lot of joy. And that's why in our company, we take a lot of interns. We take a lot of people who have zero experience. So most commercial firms, average age around the country of commercial real estate professionals is 63 years old. Very hard industry to get into. Most commercial brokerage firms, they expect you to have probably 5 years of experience in maybe selling residential real estate before they consider taking you in as a commercial broker. So the barriers to entry are pretty high. But in commercial, unlike residential, one deal can change your life forever. That's a quote by one of my other mentors, Scott Schill, who runs Commercial Academy. But in commercial real estate, one deal, one time, can change your life forever. And I had many deals where, in a single transaction, you make $5 million in 9 months, or you make $100 million in 40 years, or where you make $50,000 per month positive cash flow with no cash out of pocket, or where the $5,000 down, you make $4 million in 2 years. And I'm not talking about hypothetical. I'm talking about real projects from my personal career in real estate. But so I had many of those life-changing deals. So my goal is to expose other people at earliest age possible to the possibilities around commercial real estate. That's why, again, we hire younger kids that we hire who have zero experience. We train them. That's why I wrote the book on investment real estate, is hopefully help inspire others. That's why I have set up a foundation. It's called Nikita Zhitov Foundation for Real Estate Education. And basically, if you are a high school student in North Carolina, I'll pay for your real estate classes. And if you want to go to college and study real estate as your major or minor or concentration, then you can apply for a scholarship and I'll pay for your tuition. So it's something, there was one other contributor to that, but pretty much 99% of the foundation is basically me. And I'm doing it for no other reason other than I want to show people the possibilities around what commercial real estate can do for them. Because I'm a beneficiary of the American dream. Because when I came to this country, my family, we had $3,000. It was my parents and my sister to have her name, rent an apartment, didn't have the car. And, everybody worked minimum wage at fast food restaurants, whatever, just to make ends meet. And for somebody like myself to be able to acquire, millions of square feet of commercial properties, or hundreds of millions of dollars, and be a beneficiary of American Dream, I want to help others to do the same thing and avoid a multi-generational poverty. So that's really what my mission is, to just help expose people and figure out how to help others be the beneficiaries of those possibilities. That real estate, I think, is the best business. It has the ability to transform lives. It has the ability to take somebody like myself with no college education, no credit, no connections, no family endorsements, no assets, and take that person and turn them into a multi-millionaire many times over. That's what this business has the ability to do for people. And I want to spread the word that, if somebody like myself can make it in this business, and anybody else living in the United States can make it a reality for them if they're willing to put in the work.
Nikita, I've had the privilege of reading a lot of intakes for power players. A couple thousand intakes for power players. And the one thing that I really look for is this desire to give as much as you want to receive. That if it's all about you, that doesn't get my attention. But when I can sense that somebody wants to have impact, they want to parent. No parent wants their child to do as well as they did. We want to eat the dust of our kids, right? Well, I've always looked at it that way for so many years around that to get the ball rolling and to watch people become what they're capable of being is a big deal. This is like, the student should become the teacher. They should. That's the way it's supposed to be. And it's so awesome to see through your own education, through your own book, through your foundation, through your leadership at Plat in your company, with Vincenzo and Pat. All of you are power players. Hell, the whole crew at Plat are power players. You've taken them all to power players. You mentioned Scott and what a great organization he's created around Commercial Academy. And but I'll tell you something, I can always tell when the annual award ceremony is going on within the Commercial Academy, because I start getting phone calls. And I'm very, very proud of, you and Rafiq and Faria and Alexandra, and I could go on and on, the top of that world. I think the reason you're the top of that world is the toolbox for sure, the creativity, the deal structuring for sure, but it more is that you've worked hard on your philosophy. You've worked hard on how you think. You're not content with I think that. You're going to keep digging to understand yourself and really understand the world around you in a different way. It's so easy to take somebody into a room and say, get out a pen and paper. I want to walk through a deal structure with you. Here's the math. Here's why it works. Here's the ROI. Here's the IRR. Here's the this. Here's the that. We can all use a calculator. And that takes some expertise to learn that. But extraordinary comes from philosophy. It comes from how you think, what you believe. How you approach the world from that perspective changes everything, because you're looking at humanity differently. You're looking at opportunity differently. You're looking at possibility differently. All of these words are very right-brain subjective words. They're not engineering mathematical words. They're perception words. And I can always tell that is what takes people to a whole different level. And it's also very difficult to teach. How do you go about improving that in yourself, your philosophy? And how do you go about teaching and modeling that with the people under your umbrella of care?
Well, I first would like to make a comment about impacting others. I think it's a quote from a Bible, is that if you want to be the greatest, you have to figure out a way how to serve the most. That's why, I admire you, because I think you left a big legacy after yourself, because you help change so many lives, me included, by exposing us to possibilities around real estate. So I'm just taking that baton and trying to, pay it forward and pass it down to other people. How do you constantly evolve? That is, you have to stop telling yourself this story about your past. You have to forget your identity And because most of the time, the story we tell ourselves about our past is not even true. It's embellished because that's how we provide excuse for why we didn't do something, right? So half of the stories we tell about ourselves about our past is not even true. And you have to completely forget that. And if you're honest with yourself, you would, right? And if you really want change in your life, then you're going to look at what at today's reality and say, okay, how do I go from here moving forward? And what's going to help you to get to this stage is not really caring what other people think of yourself. And that's how you're going to be honest with yourself. If you stop caring what other people think, and it says, okay, I don't really care what anybody else thinks. This is my reality today. How do I change it moving forward? And if you're going to be honest with yourself, then the answer is going to come. You're going to find a way. You're going to, and sometimes we don't know what we don't know. That's why reading and constant growth and acquiring new knowledge is so important, because you don't know what you don't know. And until you start seeing others do it, or until you've read somewhere how other people overcame the same challenges you've had, you may not, the answer may not come to you. But if you constantly immerse yourself into growth and acquiring new knowledge, then one thing is going to click, right, and it's going to start making sense.
A little bit like having just learned that tool and walking into a meeting, you go, oh my God, I just went through this tool. The same scenario is showing me, here's what I do. It gives you something to reference.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think, again, you've said it many years ago, but when given some type of speech or seminar, but I remember it, everything in commercial real estate is a big money sport. Every building is a multi-million-dollar building. Some buildings we buy, they're $10, $20 million buildings. So if you're the smartest person in the room and you know it all, and you've thought of everything there is to know about commercial real estate, you've thought about every single little detail, but you make a 1% mistake. You're 99% there, but you make 1% mistake, and you're talking about the $12 million building.
Mm-hmm. Right.
What does that 1% mistake cost you? It's $120,000.
Right. So
you've said it and I remembered it. I don't care if the book costs $1,000. If I can learn one thing that can help me get my, that's why you hire a golf pro, right? It's not because you're a bad golfer, it's because you just want to get 2 millimeters better.
Yeah.
That's why you want to read every book out there that exists on your subject matter, whether it's real estate or whatever your passion is, is that one idea can click and can give you extraordinary result. Because keep in mind, good work gives you poor results. Excellent work gives you good results. Outstanding work gives you excellent results. So if you just do good, you're going to get poor results. If you do excellent, you're going to get good results. But the only way to get excellent results is by doing outstanding work. And what is outstanding work? It's not one of the best, it's the best. It's 2 millimeters above the excellent. So the difference between Olympic champion and the guy number 10, who you've never heard about,
right,
it's 0.2 of a second.
I was going to say 2/10 of
the 2/10 of a second.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
But there's the difference between number one world champion with gold medal and somebody you've never heard of before.
Yeah.
So you need to have this kind of a dedication to being outstanding. And you have the same expectations from your team if you want to have excellent results.
Surrounding yourself, Nikita, with that standard is a very, very challenging thing to do. You will find yourself alone a lot when you have that standard of yourself, if you seek it consistently in your life. In other words, that place can be a very lonely place where this is the standard. This is how you see the world. How do you contend with that?
Well, we are all born with equal opportunities. I think it's a quote by Mike Cantu again, but life is fair by being unfair to everyone. Well, I have a modification of that. Is that we're all born with equal opportunities because we have access to the same frequencies. So if you vibrate at a higher frequency, right, by through acquiring new knowledge, then you tend to attract others who vibrate at the same level you do. Yeah. And the people who stayed behind, they just eventually going to find their way out of your life. Life is going to do it for you. That it's going to weed out everyone who cannot keep track with you.
Right.
So it's very simple. Just focus on yourself. Don't worry about others. If you focus on yourself, how to become better and constantly grow and vibrate at a new level. And there is a frequency for wealth, right? There is a frequency for $1 million and there is a frequency for $1 billion. You just have to tune into that frequency. And if you tune into higher frequencies, other groups of souls who vibrate at the same frequencies going to find their way. And
the ultimate meetup.
The ultimate meetup. So it's like, it's like a thermostat. Some people, their financial thermostat is set at 0, right? Or negative 10,000. No matter what they do, they're always in that, right? Or they're always at 0, or right above 0, right? Limit paycheck to paycheck. And even if they win $1 million or $100 million in a lottery, 3 years later, they're right back to 0 because they never changed their thermostat. It's been set at 0 right above that. Vice versa, there's some people whose thermostat set at $1 million. They go bankrupt, and 18 months later, they're right back to being a millionaire because their thermostat have been set to $2 million or whatever the frequency may be. And some people have a thermostat at $1 billion, like Trump. He's been bankrupt multiple times. 2 years later, he's right back to being a billionaire because he set his mental thermostat to being a billionaire. And the key is to tune in into the frequency. We all have access to the same frequencies. You just have to figure out how to tune in to those higher frequencies, and then so you can change the patterns in the field, and you can change the hologram projection of those frequencies in the 3D reality, to have pretty much anything you want in life.
This conversation, this content, I believe it's showing itself in our culture right now in ways that skip the hard work. The world, just riff. This is not on our outline, but riff the topic of virtual reality. We watch the most watched, attended shows are people living vicarious lives through the lives of other people. The world of virtual reality, that where something manufactured here is more drawing and attentive to you than your real world. To me, there's this. Why would somebody say, I'm going to invest all this time and energy watching somebody else's life play by play to sort of live vicariously their life? Or why would I go electronically into a world that doesn't really exist, but to me it's my real world isn't real? I've thought a lot about that topic in our day and age, and I come up somewhat frustrated by the momentum, but my conclusion is that to make these sorts of things your own reality for most people is too damn hard. It takes a lot of work to know yourself. It takes a lot of work to discipline your life, to truly become self-aware, and therefore these realities can become your reality, where you don't have to live vicariously through some, weekly show or sitcom or the latest episode of da-da-da, or go into the metaverse and say, this is my reality because mine is so miserable. I just want to go there quickly, effortlessly. I just want to plug in and here it is. The meat of this is a desire to do the hard work, to do what most aren't willing to do. At least that's my thought. But I want you to take that and run with it because you've got a great mind around these things. Alleviate my frustration. Tell me there's a different route.
I don't know why would you want to live in another virtual reality when you're already living in one? The world we live in, it is a virtual reality already. So then you go a step further. It's like virtual reality within the virtual reality. It's like we need to figure out a way how to find our way how to reconnect with the divine instead of go further into lack and separation. So look, the only difference between successful people and unsuccessful people is that successful people have successful people's habits. There's a lot of good book on habits, the Tools of Titans, the Atomic Habits, right? So just figure out what are the successful people's habits are. Make them part of your own habits. And it's that simple. Do you know of any super successful person who spends hours watching Netflix? I don't, right? They don't find themselves in any situations they don't want to be in by accident. They're in charge of their lives. They choose the environment that they live in, that they work in, the people who they associate with, and it's really is that simple. Years ago, I just identified, says, okay, what is all these successful people have in common? What kind of habits they have? And I make those habits my own, reading being one of them, right? And then the life change, and then you don't see it because it's small incremental steps. You don't change, and then one day you wake up and realize you live in a totally different reality,
right? Because
you're a new person, and the reason why you're a new person is because you have a different personality and you have different habits. You've let go of the old habits, and yes, it is a lot of hard work and it's a lot of discipline, but I promise you it's worth it.
So this may tie in two thoughts together. One, Jim Rohn, right? The all significant change has a precursor of disgust, and perhaps the answer to one who was disgusted and frustrated, Thoreau, said, I went to the woods because I wanted to live deliberately, by choice. I'm choosing now. No matter how hard it is, I'm choosing to be and do this. The disciplines. You mentioned reading daily. Just give me like 4 or 5 disciplines that are, you may not even think of them anymore, but that become a part of your day. Disciplines.
Well, you've mentioned a quote by Thoreau. I went to the woods because I wanted to live deliberately, but you didn't finish it because the second part of the quote...
To live deep, to suck out all the marrow of life, to put to rout all that was not life, not when I die, discover I've not lived.
Okay, so sometimes it's hard to figure out, okay, which way do I go? So start with disqualifying things that you for sure know not going to get you closer to your goals or your dreams. So to put out all that is not life.
Right.
Start with that. And once you eliminate a whole bunch of things that not getting you closer to your goal, then all that extra space that opened up with your time.
Name a few of those. Just hypothetically, what has to go?
Again, junk food, alcohol.
Yep.
Right. Watching TV.
Yep.
Having surface level conversations.
Yes.
Really anything that's not aligned with your vision. If it's not part of your vision, it should go. And then slowly over time, you're going to figure out the way how to fill that void with things that do align with your vision. I think, again, I think it's you said it years ago. It's more important what you choose not to do than it is what you choose to do in your life. All right? Because if you have all that space opened up in your schedule, you're going to fill it in with some things. And then you do evaluation again and readjust and retune. So some disciplines I do is waking up early. Most people, the book 5 a.m. club. Most successful people wake up super early. And I actually took it a step further, and I've changed my schedule so I wake up at 4 o'clock, not 5 o'clock. Because 5 o'clock is for high achievers. Well, I want it to be above the high achievers. So I wake up at 4 o'clock, and I start my day by meditation. And the reason I do it at 4 o'clock is because your melatonin is the highest between 1 a.m. and 4 a.m. And when you meditate and you activate, you polarize the rhombohedron crystals inside your pineal gland, which is inside your limbic brain. That's pineal gland is what produces the melatonin and serotonin. Well, when you polarize it in charge with energy, right? By driving your cerebral spinal fluid from your body to activate those crystals inside pineal gland, you can have certain derivatives, and your melatonin can get an upgrade, and you can have you can have the same effects that you can have from some psychedelic drugs, right? You can have very vivid imagery. So it makes you feel very, very good. Well, I'm not a proponent. I don't drink alcohol. I'm not a proponent of using any drugs because your body is the best pharmacist there is already. So you can have all the same effects, including the production of DMT molecule inside your pineal gland without any outside influences, right? By simply through the process of meditation. So that's how I start my day. I usually do it for an hour, sometimes it lasts an hour and a half, depending what kind of, how it goes, right? I lift myself up to 2 hours. Then I go to the gym, I work out for an hour, do cardio. Again, I just observe what is the common trend among successful people, and I make those habits my own habits. Work out for an hour, then do, sauna, cold shower, get dressed and ready, and make it to the office by 8 a.m. Reading, using time in your car to listen to audiobooks, right? When I say reading, it doesn't have to be actual physical reading. It could be audio material. So any way to feed your mind, just like you feed your body, you have to feed your mind with positive stimuli that's going to have a potential to give you further development, right? Feeding your mind with some talk show or radio station, it's not going to get you the results you want.
Right.
So if you eliminate that, then you have all this extra time that you're going to find what to fill it with. And, after a while, I found to fill it with educational materials. So it's really the process of elimination because it's hard to see how to get from point A to B, what the road you need to take. So you start out by eliminating things for sure that's not going to get you there. And then eventually find a way.
Do you agree that there's a difference between meditation and more, I guess I put it in a separate category of just quiet, focused time, like time with a notepad in front of you to be aware of what you're thinking, to brainstorm, as it were, to think on the thoughts you've never thought, to follow up on the leads that come. I know this sounds way out there. I don't know that I've ever even told you this, but forever forever in my life, I either have in the shower like suction cups that go right on the thing and a grease pencil, or there's a notepad and a pen on the counter, because in that first shower in the morning, once you sort of go through your routine, somehow the water, a thought will come. Most of the time, I don't even understand the thought. It's like a directive. Call so-and-so. Do this. A deal structure. A possibility. A something. And if I don't get it out of my brain quickly and write it down, I mean, it comes and goes really fast. So I've learned just have something there. I mean, I have soap in my face and I'll write on the pen just there. It's there. Now I'll see it when I'm done. But that time to think about allowing your brain and what comes into your mind to direct your path. Do you have a time like that where the door is shut, or where you go to a place that isn't meditation, but it's being open to providence directing you? Do you have that time?
Yeah, of course. That's also, it's separate, also a very important process. And it happens throughout the day, where I take, notes instantly, and I kind of keep notes on my phone because it's always next to me and I can do it. But I also do take time pretty much daily, and it can happen at sporadic periods of time throughout the day where I sit down and reflect, debrief, right? Debrief and jot down notes and ideas. Yeah, very important for sure.
What do you do outside of the world that would fall, outside the world of business, that would fall under the heading of recharge, just fun? Sometimes I think people look at somebody as driven, that's the word, as you, and God, where does the guy ever have any fun? Just fun. What do you do for fun?
Real estate is what I do for fun. I don't consider that work, and people used to tell me, it's like, well, you don't have any balance in life. You work all the time. I says, what are you talking about? I haven't worked a day in my life. It's like, this is fun for me. So the reason why people don't get it is because they have image of like working and fun as separate things. To me, it's the same thing. And I know the difference between the two. For me, buying buildings, negotiating deals is fun. That's my passion, and I can do it for 16 hours a day, for 20 hours a day. Right. But to answer a question, that's what I really think. But to answer a question, I guess what most people expect to hear, what I do outside of real estate entrepreneurship is, again, spend time with my family. I, again, work out in the gym right now. I'm actively training for an Ironman. That's one of my goals for 2024. I want to finish an Ironman. But play tennis. A couple years ago, I've learned how to play piano. So just wanted to develop a new skill.
What about flying? Do you
flying? Yes, I've got my pilot's license, and sometimes I fly for fun because you don't think about anything else when you're in the air. It's it's like a meditation, actually. Flying is like a meditation.
It is. Yeah.
So you're in the present moment, and you don't think about the past, and you don't think about the future.
To me, that's what identifies a great recharge, is when you do take yourself out of at least one realm into another, but very few things allow you to be completely focused on what you're doing. Flying has always been one for me too. Like, I don't think about anything else when I'm flying the plane. Nothing. And I love every minute of it, but my brain isn't on fire doing a lot of things. I'm just doing this.
You have to do it out of necessity because you have to keep track of a lot of gauges.
But it doesn't even feel like that to me. It's just, I'm just so taken by the whole process that, to have something that takes you away. Another for me is although I'm not great at this, but I am competitive. But competitive golf, where you get completely focused on, okay, I'm not just playing a game here. I'm playing to win. I'm competing against that guy who's trying to take my money. So you better pay attention, and you get completely taken in that moment with what it is you're throwing yourself into. To me, that's a balance. To have different things on the plate that allow you to go to a different place and be that. I agree with you with real estate. It's, hey, I'm almost 50 years into this and I've never had a job. I love it. But I also recognize the value of being all in with other things. But being partially in, who wants to do that? I mean, who would want to sit in a lukewarm bathtub? It's like ice cold, really warm. The middle does nothing for you or anything around you, in my mind. It's what are you all in toward? And I think the way you have that ability to say, I'm going here, is to eliminate everything, put to rout all that you're mediocre about. Like, who really cares? I don't really care. Either be there completely or do the world a courtesy and don't be there, right? Doesn't that make sense?
Well, do yourself a courtesy and your family.
Exactly.
And,
yeah.
do something else.
Yeah. Yeah. So talk to me about impact. You went there with various things that you're doing. How will you measure, Nikita? When they spread out your life and go, here's Nikita, how will you measure whether you delivered the verse you were intended to deliver?
I think it's by how many people I have impacted, right? I have a few things on my bucket list that I want to do. And I want to do them for no other reason that I want to try to impact the most amount of people. Mm-hmm. And I've been really struggling with trying to find a way how to do that. So I'm just, because I feel like the things I've done so far through offering internship, job opportunities at my company, doing the scholarships, so paying for people's licenses, I don't think that impacts maybe several dozen people, maybe a couple hundred people, but I don't feel like it's big enough impact. I really want to leave a massive impact because I think that's how we keep score. We leave this place better than when we found it. And one thing I want to do is I want to write a best-selling book. But the thing is, I can write a book on commercial real estate, but it's not really applicable to large quantities of people. It might be applicable to a narrow group of people. So how do I write a book on commercial real estate that's universally applicable, can influence large quantities of people, right? So that's the challenge I'm trying to figure out as we speak. And I've been playing around with the idea and trying to think, okay, how can I write this book that has the potential to become a best-selling book, right? Another thing I want to do is, again, the high school that I graduated, because I didn't graduate college. So my high school, which is a School of Science Mathematics, and it's a boarding school in Raleigh, Durham area. For years, I had a dream that I wanted to give back to the school. I want to build a building and create like a business school there to teach people about business. And a few years ago, I wanted to find my way into the school, and I told them, why don't we set up this endowment fund, which I'll fund, and then any graduate of the school, active enrolled student who wants to get their license, I'll pay for their license. And if they want to go to college and study real estate, I'll choose one student once a year. I'll pay for their tuition. And I've been negotiating with their staff of the school, with the administration, for like a year with different people, and I couldn't get through because they keep wanting to direct me to a different direction. I said, well, we have this endowment already set up over here for applications in entrepreneurship. Why don't you just make donation there, or why don't you help the underprivileged people over here? And it's like they didn't want for me to do what I wanted to do. So I finally said, screw it. I'm just going to set up a universal foundation that's not limited to this school. It's actually anybody in the state, and maybe like in the future I'll expand it beyond just one state, who wants to get their license, and you're an active college student or high school student, I'll pay for your license. And which I ended up doing. It came out of frustration that I was not getting through to in high school. But one thing I wanted to do still is build this business school. And the thing is that its campus, there's no really room to grow. So the only way to do it would be to buy all the houses. And the school is sitting in the middle of a residential neighborhood, old residential neighborhood with a bunch of historic old houses. So the only way to add space to build an extra building would be to buy up a city block or two around it and, clear cut it and abandon the street, abandon the roads to you connect the campus and expand the size of it to have the room to build additional buildings. Unfortunately, when I started looking into this possibility, I realized it's not going to be like a $10 million endeavor. It's going to be probably a $50 million endeavor just to buy up the land. And I looked at every single city block around it to see which one would be the cheapest one to acquire. And it might inside there might be some holdouts. It's like trying to do land assemblages for zoning. There could be you might have to seek government help for to do eminent domain takings if there is some holdouts there, because eventually it will be donated for the state's purposes. But then over time, as I understood how the universe works and how the quantum field works, I decided that I'm not going to do a business school. Instead, I'm going to build a building that's then I'm going to create like a applications and quantum physics department of building, and maybe meditation center that comes with it. And because instead of teaching people about business, about real estate, it will be more beneficial to teach them how to them to know themselves better, and how for them to control their own energy, so that they can create their own reality, whatever their passions may be, which doesn't have to be real estate, right? It's my passion, but it's maybe not somebody else's passion. So instead of teaching them and shoving down their throat, hey, you need to go do commercial real estate because it's going to change your life, I want people to study quantum physics and how the unifying field of energy that's all around us really works, so that they can create their own possibilities from that. And then they can study science, they can study music, whatever they want to study. They'll be the creators of their own lives in that case. So that's so that goal has evolved.
Right.
And I've been thinking about it for the last, at least 15 years, maybe closer to 20. And I'm finally just now starting to take steps towards actually looking, okay, what it's going to take to assemble this land around it, to build this campus. But again, if I do that, it might affect several hundred students or several thousand students over a period of time. And it's probably going to be between $50 to $100 million undertaking. But I don't feel like maybe that's going to be big enough impact. So I'm still trying to figure out how I can live the bigger impact on people so that I can affect millions. Like you've affected a lot of people. That's why I think you lived a fulfilling life, because you've changed a lot of lives, myself included. There's a lot of people, like, if you look at somebody like Elon Musk, Tony Robbins, they've affected millions of people.
Yes.
So I think they have the biggest impact, and I want to figure out how I can be more like them to affect millions of people.
You mentioned Tony. Tell me some of the people that come to mind that you're looking at as having done that. Studying those that have had that kind of influence or impact. Who comes to mind most?
Well, out of the people currently living?
Not necessarily.
Yeah. Obviously, Tony Robbins had a big impact. Joe Dispenza, he teaches more of and meditations and how people can help themselves, right? Scott Schill, who runs Commercial Academy, again, he's impacting thousands of people, if not tens of thousands. Obviously, people like Elon Musk, who transforming reality, right? Sending spaceships on Mars and revolutionizing the green energy, and with Teslas and Solar City and sustainable energy. There's really a lot of people like that.
I think
Obviously
that when
past,
you have that desire, you find a way. But to your point of looking at other people's journey, how did they find their route to that kind of impact? I think is, it's not necessarily going to be the same way you'll go about it, but you'll see some common threads. One that you mentioned in writing your book is, what is the common thread in all of these people who you're trying to, is it commercial real estate or is it more philosophically based, right? You look at Tony Robbins, he has affiliate relationships with people in all sorts of different specialties in life, real estate, et cetera, but the common thread is, who are you? How do you think? Taking charge and ownership of your life. That's the common thread that needs to happen no matter what boat you get into professionally or, financially. The common thread is where he spends his energy and time and where he devotes himself. And therefore, everyone is his audience versus when we get so narrow, we only draw. People are drawn to that, right?
Yep.
And sometimes it has to start there, right? I don't know. I have the same desire you do. I don't know that I'm on track with my own goals in that department, but I because I have done a little bit of real estate in my life, it has always, though, through my eyes, been seen as a way to make an introduction that then leads to other conversations. In other words, this is sort of the initial topic, and it's a topic I'm very passionate about. But my hope is that as I get to know people here, we evolve into the discussion of the mind, the discussion of our philosophy, the discussion of what you might put to route that is not serving you. Those more important and universal discussions versus an inserted subordination agreement on a substitution security clause, right?
Yep.
Right.
Well, again, sometimes a big mountain, you being a mountain climber, you don't look at the peak, right? You look 20 feet ahead of you. Yeah. And I've recently climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, actually, so I'm, getting a little bit exposure to your world of climbing. Well, sometimes the end result is unclear how you're going to get there. That's why you just do it baby steps. That I know that the power of compound effect, right? It's actually a very, very good book. It's one of my favorite books. The compound effect, yes. By giving love freely, we become spiritual millionaires, right? So you can become financial millionaire, and it's great. But to become it's also a good idea to be a spiritual millionaire, aside from being financial millionaire. And the way you become spiritual millionaire is by giving love freely. So start by just giving love to people, make them feel great about themselves on daily basis, and the compound effect. Hopefully, maybe one day it's going to all add up to having a big impact.
Right.
If you give a positive impact to just few people a day, over the course of a year, it could be 1,000 people.
Yeah.
And it's going to start having a compound effect.
Give me a few words on your partners at City Plat. You have an incredible crew. I've been blessed to know the core of that crew very well through this Power Players intensive talk to me about how you run this company with your partners. Do you divide and conquer? Do you collaborate? Give me some insight.
A little bit of both. I think we're still trying to find the best way to run the company, but right now, pretty much G has been focusing on asset and leading property management division and doing asset management, and Pat is kind of handling our entitlements and development projects, which we're trying to phase out of. But unfortunately, we still have a lot of legacy deals, a lot of land holdings that were kind of missed the window of opportunity to get out of it. But because entitlements and rezonings have been taking so long, that's a downside of doing development work. You kind of have to wait till the next cycle. So he's kind of leading those efforts. And Vincenzo and I, we focus on capital markets and equity and, finding deals and financing them, structuring debt and structuring, doing equity stack on those deals.
Yeah.
So we kind of divide and conquer. So some people have assigned roles and others we kind of divide and conquer.
Do yourself a favor and go to City Plat, Raleigh. You'll find it very easily and look that up. It's just awesome what you guys are doing and the leadership that you're providing them. Tell me, expound a little bit on the changes you've seen in yourself since becoming a father not so very long ago.
Well, certainly some of my needs have changed. I've a need for certainty, at least for a period of time for the first year since she was born. I kind of have taken priority, so I became more risk averse. I started kind of shifting away from doing a little bit of everything and doing diverse projects to just focusing on cash flow assets and less development deals. But then, so it's a good thing and a bad thing. A good thing is that, again, it makes you become more disciplined because now you have different priorities. You want more safety and more stability instead of, going all in on some transactions that if they work out, you're going to be great, but if they don't, then you're going to be back where you were in 2008, So I certainly don't want to start all over again at this, stage in life after being in it for 20 years. So it just helped find clarity, what I want to focus on. And then the flip side of that is that you still want to take risks because that's how you grow and that's how you learn new things, but they just have to be educated risks. So it's just kind of a balancing act.
Yeah, it'll evolve. I don't know if you're planning on having more kids, but it's something that continues to have a huge impact, and every decision you make is never seen through the same lens again. And that's fantastic. Another question I've just been dying to ask you is that in all the reading you do, if you were to prescribe, like Dr. Zhitov, prescribe 3 books.
3 is going to be
challenging.
I
know. And I didn't even write this on here because I thought that's going to wreck your brain. I just went first 3 that come to mind.
Well, we've mentioned definitely. So from the business, maybe I'll give you 3 from different categories of life because it's really hard to I have 2 or 3 dozens that immediately come to mind, but definitely the compound effect. Principles by Ray Dalio. And the reason the compound effect is because all great benefits in life come from compound interest. And you really need to understand that concept. Principles by Ray Dalio, it's actually Warren Buffett's and Bill Gates' favorite book. And it has become one of mine favorite book as well. The Go-Giver. We have in our company the Go-Giver mindset. There's go-getters and also there's go-giver. So you need to start Another book similar to that is called Giftology. But really, Go-Giver, everybody, new hires we have, that's the first thing we give them is to say, start out with this book, because you need to have the Go-Giver mindset if you want to work here. But again, I can give you 24 books from business, everything from.
Yeah, I love that those were the three. I mean, I right off the top of your head, those are the compound effect is really interesting too, because although it talks about the things we do and how they add up over time, both good and bad, the effect of what we do consistently. But the flip of that coin is the compound effect of every day what we don't do, which is another, I would almost argue, even more compounding effect. The choices we choose not to engage in. And especially those that we have a propensity to be drawn toward for a reason that we've determined isn't helping us. Is it serving you and the people you love around you? Yes or no? Well, if the answer is no, then the not doing of it has a compound effect over time too.
Yeah, and that's why it's so difficult for people to change themselves, because you go to the gym one time and you lift weights, you're not going to see results. Even if you do it for 3 months, you're not going to see any change yourself in the mirror.
Yeah.
But if you do it every day, 6 or 7 days a week for 5 years, and we take a picture of you before and after,
Yes.
I promise you're going to see a big difference.
Right.
All right. The same thing if you just eat one extra chocolate cake once a day
Yep.
for 3 years, we're going to see the compound effect of that
Right.
3 years from now.
Yes.
And the same goes with all other disciplines in life. You're not going to see major changes if you your life if you read the book a week or 2 books a week.
Yeah.
But you do it for 5 years in a row, the compound effect of constantly reading and acquiring new knowledge is going to be visible.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the key is to find small ways to improve yourself on a daily basis. Even though you may not see the results, just keep doing it, and the compound effect is going to kick in.
Well, and this is a perfect segue to putting a bow on this with what I title sort of the consider challenge, and I believe that every time we're challenged, every time we look at something and our brain is like, we're instantly attacked. We're attacked by the anti-you, whose goal is sameness. Stay the same. Just don't rock the boat. And he's a master negotiator of keeping us in sameness. The opposite of that, though, is stepping towards change, stepping towards a deliberate improvement in your life. And the consider is as a quote that I took from actually a very, very interesting, crazy movie. But at the end of this movie, the quote, I want to read it and get it exactly right. It says, "Every passing minute is another chance to turn it all around." When do you start? You start now. This minute. This minute, you make a decision to take that one step, to begin that one discipline, to eliminate this one thing. The initial movement is so critical. Staying in the waiting place is the most useless place, as Geisel described. What I see, Nikita, after many years of just watching and being a part of your life, is that you have been on the move. You've been on the move. You haven't let things linger as your growth is the grail. Well, you're on it. You're on top of it. And you're driven towards growth. And to me, that means going to battle with sameness, who wants you to stay the same. You're open to the next thing, the next step, the next challenge, the next thought you have yet to process. I wish everybody could have that hunger, but I believe it starts with a choice. It's that choice to get up and move now. Here it is. It's the opportunity's there. Take back to Power Players that piece of Son of a Woman, right? Where he looks at Charlie and goes, all right, move. Where? You know where. Mm-hmm. Get up. We're going now. The sense that this is our shot to start growth. You've never stopped. And I so commend this ongoing thing. I know that when I sit with you 5 years from now, there'll be a whole new dimension of your own personal reality, your own achievement of growth. That's what's exciting. Whereas the opposite of that is that phone call you get from people, you see it come and you go, oh my God, do I want to sit and listen to the same vomit again and again and again and again? They're just stagnant, stopped, stuck. That's the opposite of the way you live. And I think you're a huge example. So if there is a baton that is hoping to pass, if there's anything, that desire to grow and reinvent your thinking all the time. Wow, I'm so excited for people to grasp that, to feel that, to see the possibilities that ushers into your life. I don't know how to say thank you enough for being here. We're gonna call it a day. Thank you so much for being on this podcast. To get a hold of Nikita, look up City Plat, Raleigh. He's very accessible. And again, thank you so much for being on this podcast, and we'll continue this down the road for sure. Okay.
Well, thank you. It's been a privilege, for me to get a call from you, because again, you've been my mentor for many, many years. Wow. So the privilege is truly
the privilege mine's, Nikita. I mean it sincerely. It's just it's everything anybody could ever dream of, like me, is to have somebody run with it. And you've done it, and then some. I'm eating your dust, and it's awesome. I love it. So thanks again.
Thank you.
Okay, brother.